Okay, hello. Hope you don't mind my speaking to you this way. I'm doing this on Tuesday, the day before we meet on our Zoom call, and I realize that tomorrow there's a really good chance I won't be able to participate in the Zoom call. And I appreciate the fact that people are taking up this book, even though there's a lot of resistance to it. A lot of people don't like it. I appreciate the fact that you're looking at it anyway. Since it's my idea, I feel obligated to participate somehow, so I'm doing this. Um, so let me begin by saying this chapter really turned me on. I really got into this chapter. This is the first chapter that I've really enjoyed reading. I don't know if anybody else did. I suspect that there were a few people who didn't like it at all. I'm hoping some of you liked it. I particularly liked the section that begins on page 86, Will There Be Many Sims? And the reason I like that is because he shows, by he I mean Chalmers, shows a lot of humility. I thought he was going to be more pushy than he turns out to be. He is admitting that he could be wrong about Sims for many, many different reasons, many of which I agree with. I happen to, a lot of you know, I have this tendency to favor the idealist ontology, and the idealist ontology really says that Sims that actually have experience, metacognition, are really impossible. So that turned me off about the book because I know he's going forward with the idea anyway. But in this chapter, he has thrown me a bone several times, and he has acknowledged a lot of objections, including the objections of idealists. And he does acknowledge idealists could be correct and he could be wrong. So I like that a lot about this particular chapter. Now, this section, Will There Be Many Sims, is breathtakingly optimistic at first. And then it becomes very, very pessimistic in the end. All the reasons why he thinks there will be a lot of Sims, and all the reasons why he thinks there might not be any. So that's why I enjoy reading this section. I particularly liked his throwing a bone to people who know about nanotechnology. Nanotechnology is something that was a thing in the 80s. It's the idea of making things, manufacturing things on a very, very, very small scale, microscopic scale, submicroscopic scale, down to the level of assembling molecules, or collecting molecules and putting them together to form different objects. And he's hip enough to acknowledge that, yeah, nanotechnology, especially in the 80s, there were a lot of people had a lot of doomsday scenarios about how nanotechnology could be our undoing. And he particularly mentions gray goo, GRAYGOO, which is a fun thing to think about. If you don't know about gray goo, I'm going to suggest that you just go to youtube.com and search on facility, FACILITY, gray, GRAY, goo, GOO. There's a 13-minute video there that explains what people imagine could be the apocalypse, represented by the possibility of this gray goo scenario. The video is fun. It's aimed at high school kids, and I think it's worthwhile. So I like that aspect of the book. I like the aspect of this section that he acknowledges all the big reasons why he could be wrong about The Sims. And I also should mention that the following section that begins on page 91, Are We Special? Well, that's where he talks about the idealist objection to his scenario. And I appreciate the fact that he devotes so much space and attention to that. Although it does strike me as fast talking, hand waving to a certain extent, but he does acknowledge that he could be wrong on that basis.